We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generations.
Bringing news just for you. It's Monday, June 10th here in Seoul. I'm Song Yejin, and this is News Generation. Today, we're joined by Walter Lee.
Lovely to be here.
Happy Monday, and Woo Hee-jun.
Happy to be here.
Now, both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. Now, as usual, we're going to start with our news feed, which covers different hashtags and news items that have been trending online over the past 24 hours. Can you guess which tourist spot in Korea saw the most visitors last year? It's the Suncheonman Bay National Garden in Jeollanam-do Province. Data from the Korea Culture and Tourism Institute on Sunday revealed that over 7.7 million people visited the area last year, making it the most visited among the 2,752 survey locations in the country. This is an increase of more than 5.1 million visitors compared to the previous year, largely thanks to the Suncheonman International Garden Expo held from April to October. Korea's largest amusement park, Everland, took second place, followed by Goyang City's Kintex Convention Center. Now, moving on, more than 2 months after moving to China, Fubao, the giant panda, will go back on public display starting Wednesday. According to the China Conservation and Research Center for the giant panda, visitors will be able to see the 3-year-old panda who was born in Korea's Everland at the Ulongjeon Shopping Base in Sichuan Province from Wednesday afternoon. Now, before the public opening, an event celebrating Fubao's public debut will be broadcast live from 9:30 a.m. China time on the center's social media account. Concerns have been rising over Fubao's well-being in recent weeks, with some fans suspecting mistreatment of the panda. Ending with some sports news, Korean volleyball legend Kim Yeon-kyung finally had her national team retirement ceremony on Saturday. The event took place during the KYK Invitational 2024 Game Series at Seoul's Jamsil Arena. Kim announced her retirement from the Korean women's national team 3 years ago after the Tokyo Olympics. However, her official ceremony was postponed due to the COVID-19 pandemic and her game schedule. Now, despite ending her almost 2-decade-long career with the national team, the 36-year-old will continue to play for the Hunguk Life Insurance Pink Spiders in the Korean Women's B-League. Now, it's always really sad to see a sports legend, especially like Kim, bid farewell to the national team, especially considering all she's done for Korean volleyball. So, Hee-jun, I know that you're an athlete and you have represented Korea on the international stage, so I think that you can relate to her even more. What are your thoughts on Kim's retirement?
Well, I had several farewells while I'm playing the different type of sports like track and field and stunt cheerleading, etc. But in fact, I think it is most difficult thing is say goodbye and leave your colleague.
Right.
You know, where you live and train together for several years. So, however, it is natural for the athlete that they change their role or position as a leader or coach one day, because athlete is not the job that you can do for your lifetime. So of course, the Kim will play the great role as the coach and wherever she goes. And I'm looking forward to see her second journey as different roles.
Right, and talking about her next journey, Kim, after her retirement ceremony from the national team, actually officially launched her foundation that will work to make sports more accessible for the younger generation in the country. So I'm also really looking forward to her second chapter, not part of the national team, but also as an athlete of the domestic league and also running a foundation. Now, Walter, as we previously mentioned, Kim brought so much excitement and joy to Korea, both as an individual athlete and a key member of the national team. So I want to ask you, did you also watching her great performances and matches as the national team?
Yeah, I definitely watched her national team performances and also her domestic performances. She was actually more entertaining than the men's games, I would say. Now, she wasn't just great, talented athlete, but she was also very entertaining to watch as well. Not only, on the court, but outside of the court itself. Now, not many people outside of Korea would know that she has this witty and funny side to her, which we've seen on numerous TV shows. And she's also, very funny when it comes to playing as well, which when she finally gives up her time in the domestic league, she'll be a big loss for the female volleyball community. But yes, I wish her luck wherever she goes.
Yeah, me too. Maybe because she's such a great TV personality, she might come up on NewsGen in the future.
Let's hope so. She is a millennial. So.
Right. And that was our news feed for this Monday. So we're now going to move on to our main discussion of the day. Now, it's been quite a while since we've talked about dating and marriage trends here on NewsGen, and recently a new type of matchmaking event in Korea is gaining international attention. So take a look at the screen to find out more.
We're used to blind dates set up by friends and family or through dating apps and matchmaking companies. But have you ever thought about going on a date organized by the local government? Increasingly, city governments in Korea are hosting these events, offering food, drinks, games, and even background checks for participants who are single and ready to mingle. Why is the government stepping in to help people find love, and what do millennials and Gen Z think about these efforts?
Right, so this is quite an interesting concept, seeing local governments so determined to arrange matches so that they're organizing these blind dates. So I think the big question here is, Walter, what is the initiative? What's the motive behind these initiatives carried out by local governments?
Well, we actually very briefly talked about this on the show a couple of weeks ago.
You have great memory.
I have great memory. I do remember. So due to the obviously dwindling number of marriages and as well as the very low birth rate here in South Korea, the local government nationwide has actively stepped up to arrange singles to come together under one roof and meet for a potential partner. Now, as you mentioned, blind dates, they're not exactly new here in Korea, but this is the first time that the government has really got involved, and it's quite interesting.
Right, and I think that more local governments here in the country will jump into organizing these blind dates, because Korea actually saw the total fertility rate for the first quarter of this year hitting a fresh low. So this demographic or population crisis is definitely becoming more alarming here in the country. Now back to the government-hosted blind dates. Mostly blind dates or sogetings that Walter mentioned, they're mostly one-on-one. However, these are group events. They're mass-scale events, as we've seen in the VCR. So Heejun, can you just tell us how these blind dates work?
Sure. So in these current situations where the non-marriage and low birth problems are gradually maximizing, so simply our local governments are directly conducting the couple matching programs for unmarried men and women with their boundary and scheduled programs. So it is showing a national-wide expansion as the programs that actually leading to the dating various events, and also as the number of the actual participants matched through these programs are increasing now. So they're showing more interest and related issues in the media now.
Right, and talking about interest from the media, these government-hosted blind dates have also caught attention not only here in the country, but the eye of international media outlets as well. So if you take a look at the screen, this is one title from an international media outlet, the Boston Globe. It says, "Dear city residents, fall in love, please." So I think that this is a message that the organizer, which is the local government, wants to spread to its participants. Now, Walter, my question here is, what is it about these events that's really fascinating a lot of foreign media outlets?
Well, to me, I think it's the uniqueness of how they're doing it, right? And to improve the birth rate. The main goal for it is to improve the birth rate.
Right.
And to quote one of the sources I read, which is from an international media outlet, it's like the government is playing Cupid in this situation, which is something that you don't often hear throughout the world.
Right.
You don't hear governments saying, you should meet together.
Right.
Instead, they usually offer, packages including things for, having a baby. I know that this is a problem all over the world as well. I mean, not as bad as here in Korea, but there are situations, example in Australia, I've got friends from Australia who are married and who have decided not to have kids. And one of the biggest reasons is, number one, they feel like they're not responsible enough to take care of a child.
Right.
And number two, obviously, we're talking about money. And though these blind dates are quite interesting, we'll talk about a bit later whether they will be working or not.
Right. This is definitely a new approach that local governments are taking. And as we previously mentioned, we're seeing the number of these government-hosted blind dates increasing. So Heejun, my question to you is, which specific these government-led matchmaking events have been drawing most attention from the media?
To be honest with with you, they're having a lot now. Seongnam City has been working as organizer for BlindDate for 2 years now, and it is striving to spread the positive value of the marriage by providing opportunities for natural encounters and also the continuous developments of the relationships. And also what I heard is Gimhae City is trying to matching couple with the 1 night, 2 days trip programs, and also the Busan, the city that where I came from, will hold a meeting day for married domestic and foreign peoples once a month, allowing foreign employees and also international students participate from next year, and which is include the various activities like quiz, games, and beach trains and yachts, etc. And also said that there are some support measure for extra couples as well.
A lot of interesting, diverse programs these governments are providing at these blind dates. Now, talking about measures, these blind dates don't just end after a single day. I've heard that city governments offer benefits to couples who really hit it off or even tie the knot.
It is quite interesting that some local governments have announced that they will provide additional support if the meetings actually lead to marriage. For instance, in Taebaek City in Gangwon Province offers financial support of up to 1 to 3 million, which is around $720 to 2,100 US dollars. If you get married within 3 years, you get about 1 million Korean won, which is the 720 US dollars. If you get married within a year, meaning under a year, you've just met this person, which is very quick. It happens here in Korea.
Yeah, it
it's
does.
possible. But yes, that's when you get the real big money. You get about $2,100 in incentives upon a successful marriage. Not just, you can't just get married for a day and then like split the money and then go separate ways. You have to have a successful marriage.
Right. And what came into my mind is that Taebaek City that you mentioned, and also Gimhae or Busan, and also Daegu City here in Korea. They are some of the cities and the regions that are hosting these government-led matchmaking events. Now, what they have in common is that they are non-capital regions.
Yes.
So, Walter, do you think that there's a specific reason why these non-capital regions are jumping into hosting these events?
Well, I think when most people think of the low birth rate, they think of the main big cities, right? Busan, Seoul, etc. But we must not just think about the birth rate decreasing in the major cities like Seoul. In non-capital regions, they are suffering just as much as when it comes to raising a child. They can't afford it. They can't find someone. So these events are just simply, it's hard to meet people in these areas, especially in the less populated areas. So that's the reason why we're seeing cities like Gimhae and etc. make these events local for the people.
Right, so it's kind of like the local government giving them more opportunities to like mingle.
Yes,
or
exactly.
singles who are ready to mingle. Now, these government-led matchmaking events, are these events unique to Korea, or is this something that we're seeing in other countries as well?
Not only here in Korea. In the case of neighboring Japan, the low birth rate and aging problems more serious in there. So local governments have already started this program several years ago, and the local governments directly designated these official match markers and also to operate matchmaking sites as well. In order to increase the success rate, various options and benefits will be provided by teaching interviews and dating method for the dating beginners, and also the table manners, which sounds very interesting.
That's something that I would like to learn.
Table manners,
Really?
yes.
Yeah, table manners, they're important. And not only these matchmaking services or websites, most recently, Walter, I heard that the Japanese government has invested a big amount of money to create like a very cutting-edge matchmaking service using the latest technology.
Yeah, that's right. So getting back to the Japanese government, they've invested over 20 billion yen, which turns out to be over $17 million in matchmaking services, including group meetings and matchmaking events organized by monks. And as you mentioned, technology, AI matching services like these days where you put in all your information and they basically get your AI, the AI matches you with someone who is potentially a good partner for you.
Right, very interesting. And as you guys both mentioned, the Japanese government has been playing Cupid even before Korea. So now, to understand the effectiveness of these government-hosted blind dates and what our generation thinks, we're going to invite a Japanese Gen Z into our discussion. We'll be right back after the break. We're back. Today we're joined by Hikaru Suzuki, a Japanese Gen Z living in Tokyo. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here today.
Lovely to have you. So Hikaru, our first question for you is, could you tell us about some of the government-hosted blind dates in your country, that is Japan?
So our government just support hosting blind dates or both blind and not blind dates. Just having a good opportunity to meet a lot of men and women, or even like women and women together, and give the opportunity for a mingle with them.
That's quite fascinating. Do you think that these methods are effective, though, in helping people find their significant other and further to, taking a step further to starting a family? Is this something that maybe you would consider as well?
I would say yes, because a lot of Japanese younger generation says we don't have any opportunity to meet someone, meet the potential partner. But if the government have the opportunity, we can just go casually, and if we are lucky, we can find someone.
That's very good to know. And I also wondered, are there any matchmaking events that you like to see or recommend?
I would like to join this dating opportunity with for my curiosity, and also as you told me, we have a lot of AI technology dating services, so I would like to join it.
All right, sounds fun and interesting. Hope you get a chance to join on one of these interesting government-led matchmaking events. Thank you, Hikaru, so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Right, so we've heard from a Japanese MZ on her thoughts about the effectiveness and what she thinks about these government-organized blind dates. So we also asked our viewers if their countries have similar government-organized matchmaking sessions like we have here in Korea and Japan that we talked about, and whether they think that these events are helpful in people meeting their significant other and taking a step further, helping them start a family. And here's what 3 of them said. So if we look at the comments, Benny says, here in the Philippines, there are no city government-sanctioned matchmaking programs. For me, matchmaking programs hosted by either the city or government would work as well. So Benny seems like he's willing to participate in these events. Leon says government involvement can normalize the search for a partner and make it more socially acceptable. While Singapore doesn't have a direct matchmaking program anymore, the Social Development Network, or SDN, still focuses on facilitating social interaction among singles through partnerships with community organizations. That sounds fun as well. And finally, Taras Bell says, I think it could help, but government-sanctioned matchmaking programs are unheard of it in the US. So Taras, through our episode today, I think that she'll get to know what government-led matchmaking events are. Now, before we wrap up our discussion today, as part of the younger generation, as Millennials and Gen Z, which are often considered to be entering or soon to enter the typical marriage age that our society defines, I want to ask you guys here in the studio, what's your take on this new approach in the government trying to encourage people to start a family? Do you think that these government-led blind dates or matchmaking events will be effective in helping to solve the demographic or population crisis in the long term?
Well, in fact, there are some effects now, but in the long term when we see it, I don't know if this will be effective alternative for these issues, which is low birth rate and aging society. Arranging the blind date doesn't solve everything, so the essential of the not getting married and avoiding must be solved first. And for example, the various budgets and education, security, and also support issues on this accompanying marriage. So therefore, in my opinion, some say that is kind of like wasting the budgets. So, and many points out that it is essentially out of the problems of increasing unmarried people and the low birth rates. So it can be resolved only when the social infrastructure is improved and also the support measures are prepared first. And I think the administrative power and budget spent on maintenance events should be used to establish the housing or support childcare or education, etc. A practical and long-term approach is needed to be a slope rather than a short-term solution as they mentioned.
Right. So these like matchmaking events, they can be effective in the short term because it kind of provides opportunities for young people to meet a lot of people. But I think that you mentioned a very good point because at the end of the day, one of the major reasons when we look at the polls that survey young people here in Korea on whether they would like to get married, they have plans to get married, one of the main reasons that they give for those who say, I don't know or no, is because of economic issues, because it takes a lot just to get married and it takes even more to start a family. And also, especially for parents who have newborns, their career-wise, they have like a lot of difficulties because for the caretaker of the child, that may lead to like a temporary stopping of one's career. So definitely we need more support and we need to build more infrastructure in terms of childcare support. Now, what are your thoughts on this, Walter?
Well, that's really interesting because as a person who has basically a newborn child, she's about 16, 17 months now, in my opinion, events like this, listen, they couldn't hurt, but I don't think they're going to solve the problem, just as Heejun mentioned. As the only one married here on this panel, I can tell you...
You can give the most helpful advice.
I'm going to give you the best advice I can. I can tell you that the strain of having to live with another person is horrendous.
Oh my God, can you say that on air?
But really, the amount of money it takes to look after a child feels like it's never ending, and it sometimes really isn't never ending. But our generation has also been taking their own personal time into consideration.
Right.
You know, I have two friends, like I mentioned earlier, the reason why they didn't want to have kids, financial burden, plus also the responsibility as well. And as Heejun mentioned, like some people are saying that this is a waste of government money, which I do agree because there are already non-government funded events like this all around Korea. There are nights where you can go like a wine tasting night or a beer tasting night, etc. But these are organized by dating services. Now, that doesn't really mean that the government needs to get involved in this. They should really be investing that money more into having to raise a child, give the people the option, you know, hey, we're going to give you a little bit of extra money to help you raise a child rather than using these dating services. Because at the end of the day, people, I think, are going to make their decision whether they're financially stable, not whether they can find a partner, in my opinion.
Right. But the fact that we're seeing so much people wanting to participate in this program kind of shows that our generation is into trying out these programs. So maybe we need like a balanced development of government-led matchmaking events and at the same time developing and providing more infrastructure for those, for the younger generation so that they could be encouraged to get married if they meet someone that they would like to spend the rest of their time with and also start a family. And until then, we'll be here every day from 9:30 to 10 a.m. Korea time, bringing you more topics young people are talking about. Special thanks today to Walter Lee.
Lovely to be here.
Lovely to have you, and Heejun.
Happy to be here.
And thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. We are Youth Generation.